Hello and welcome to Thermomixing Adventures. Lisa here, and I am so excited today because I'm going to show you how to make the perfect Pavlova in your Thermomix. Now, I'm going to use this Black Forest Pavlova stack as the base recipe, and you can then use this for a whole lot of other things. I'm going to show you the Pav part now, but at the end I will then show you how to actually make this version of it with the beautiful coffee cream and the beautiful cherries through it, so it's that Black Forest feel to it. I'd love to know in the comments, have you made a Pavlova before? Was it a success or did you have challenges with it? Because I know it is something that can go either way, right? There are some tips and tricks that I'm going to show you today, so come along with the ride. Remember to hit the subscribe button and the little bell button to make sure you're up to date with the news from me, the new videos I'm getting out every day, hopefully inspiring you to get more out of your Thermomix. That's my plan. But let's get started. I'm going to actually start down. The first step in this recipe is to make a syrup with the cherries. So you drain the cherries, tin cherries, you then thicken up the syrup, and I'm going to skip that part because I've got heaps of time at the end. This actually has to go in the oven and then stay in the oven until it's cold. So it's got, we got a long time. You could actually make this a few days in advance, and as long as you store it airtight, it'll actually be perfectly fine for your event. So let's go to continue, because what I've done already is I have milled down 200 grams and I've got raw organic sugar. Okay, so it's not cast as per recipe, but it's the raw, and it just means it won't be as white. It'll be a little bit off white. You do 200 grams and then you do another 130 grams, okay? Because you don't want to do it all in one go, it's not fine enough. So you want to actually mill it down so it's super fine. So I've got my 200 aside. I've got my other one in here. I've just done that as well, okay? So that was 130 grams, 15 seconds, speed 9. So transfer to the bowl, and then it tells you to clean your mixing bowl. Now, this is a real big perk to having two bowls. I don't need to use this bowl to whip up my egg whites in a second. I can actually put in a second bowl. If you want to get your hands on a second bowl, talk to me about how you can do that. I'd love to answer your questions. More so those of you in Australia. Can't help those of you who are elsewhere, but Australian people, I can help you get yourself a second bowl. So, in with my clean, amazing, sparkling second bowl. Now, I have not vinegar washed this. You can. However, I find if it's gone through my dishwasher, fully pulled apart with the blade separate, it'll be perfectly fine. Oil is the enemy of egg white whipping, okay? So just a little tip straight off the bat, anything oily in there, butter, things like that, you will not get great eggs. You'll be wanting to then put them into the fridge and use them into another recipe later, okay? Even if they flop, doesn't mean you put it to waste. Do not throw out your Pavlova. You pick up the phone and go, hey Lisa, help me. Or put it away in the fridge, freezer, and then use it with the yolks that you've got left over. By the way, want to know how to use the yolks as well? Comment below and I'll send you through my favorite ways to use up spare egg yolks. So, oil is the enemy, okay? And also old eggs. Really old eggs are also the enemy. So I'm not talking about ones that are off. I'm just talking about the fact that fresher eggs are stable better. They hold their form better and make better egg white. Obviously, you can't always pick which eggs you use, because you might just be buying supermarket ones, but fresher is best. You will come out with a fluffier result. 8 egg whites. Oh, I should actually go to the step. Insert the butterfly whisk. Again, make sure your butterfly whisk is oil-free, especially up in the hole that, if you've used it for something previously. It goes behind the high blades, in it goes. This will work on a TM31, TM5, TM6. The TM31 butterfly will work perfectly fine as well. It's an aeration tool, okay? There's that 250 grams of egg whites. Truth be known, I didn't actually weigh mine. I just cracked them in, and I probably should have got to the scale point. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to err on the side of caution when it comes to the sugar, because where it can get maxed out is that we run out of egg fluffiness for the sugar to absorb in, and then it starts not absorbing and it starts splitting. Bit like mayonnaise, too much oil and enough fat and it kind of splits. Same process here. So what I'll do is I'll just pull down the sugar a little bit, and that means I'll have enough. So there's some tips already for you. Okay, cream of tartar. Cream of tartar is a stabilizer, all right? Too much of it will make it chalky, so you don't want to go, excuse my back for a second, still want to put my fingers in there. So you don't want to go too heavy, it's literally a pinch, okay? Now we're going to put the lid on, and we're leaving the measuring cup off. There is some more stabilizers to go in, but they don't go in yet, okay? We'll talk about that in a moment and why we use them. 5 minutes, measuring cup off, 37 degrees, speed 3.5, and we're going to spin it up, and I'll come back in 5 minutes and I'll show you what we're doing then. So see you soon. Okay, I've come back early so you can see what's happening in here. Look at that fluffiness. Now, what was really interesting is for the first 2 minutes, it kind of slapped the sides. You could hear the egg mixture just going slap, slap, slap. And then at about that 3-minute mark, so 2 minutes in, it actually changed texture to be that smooth. And then you can see now after the full 5 minutes how incredibly fluffy that is. Oh my goodness. The camera actually does not do that justice. So I love the achievement of making a good pavlova. Look at that. Oh my gosh. All right, and you know what? I only do it once a year, and I just love it. I hope you'll give it a go. If you've not tried it and you're buying them still, time to change that. Okay, with the butterfly whisk still in place, we're going to start adding now. I think we're adding sugar. Yeah. So, as I said, I only make it once a year, so I kind of don't remember the instructions. But this is important that we go slow, okay? Because what's happening is these sugar crystals need to dissolve into the protein of that egg white, and it needs to then change texture. Like at the moment, if I cooked this, it's just a fluffy mess. It would just kind of disintegrate. It's got no structure yet. The sugar's going to add the structure to it, and then we're going to add a bit of other stuff that actually holds its form and helps it not get sticky as well. So let's now spin this up to speed 5. I'm going to grab my spoon and I'm going to spoon this in uber slowly, okay? I'll show you the first little bit. You see how slow I'm actually doing it. I've got to remember I've actually got 330 grams worth to get in there, but I've got 5 minutes and you can extend that time if you need to. So don't feel like, oh, I've got to race it. Definitely don't. You can get heavy-handed towards the end, but at the beginning, you certainly got to go slower. So let's spin it up. 5 minutes, 37 degrees, speed 3, and let's go. And try and go around your butterfly, okay? If you put it on top of that little knobby bit, it obviously isn't going to go in, all right? So around the side it goes. Give it a second to whip in. So I'm doing about a tablespoon every, 10 seconds, I reckon? Slowly, slowly. Oh, it's so pretty. So good. All right, I'll pause this so that you don't have to watch me do this over and over again. And I will come back at the very end and I'll show you what this looks like. So we'll see you shortly. Okay, so we're on the last few seconds. It's looking amazing. I probably went heavy-handed. I'll just wait for it. I had about 1.5 minutes to spare when I'd actually finished the sugar, but you can see the silkiness of that. It didn't really matter. So let me just show you what that looks like, because oh my goodness, it is just so silky. That's what you want. See that shiny shimmer to it? That's what we're going for. Now, what we want to do is stabilize it further so that it actually doesn't get sticky in the oven, really. So when it comes out, it doesn't have that outside, you know how it weeps? Have you ever seen somebody's pavlova that kind of oozes out this sugar syrup? What we're doing now is we're adding corn flour and vinegar, and this will actually stop that weeping step where it actually afterwards sweats. So 40 seconds, speed 3, and we need to add 1 teaspoon of vinegar, 2 tablespoons of corn flour, okay, and something else. Oh, and my vanilla, 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, so let's go up to speed 3, sorry. A little dribble of this. 1 teaspoon of that. 1 teaspoon of natural vanilla. This is vanilla paste, homemade. Hopefully I'm not dropping it on the butterfly top. And then 2 tablespoons of corn flour. Nearly running out of time. There we go. Just beat the clock, but I'm actually going to hit the back arrow and I am going to give it another. Let's go back. I just want to get that a little bit more combined, that last little bit of corn flour. Looks so yummy. All right, next. I think we're done. So what we're going to do now is remove the butterfly whisk and spoon the mixture onto circle guides on baking paper to form approximately a 4 centimeter to 6 centimeter thick meringue. So let's do that. And then at this point, you could be putting it in your oven to cook as it is. I'm going to put some cocoa on top because this is going to be the beautiful cherry choc kind of one. So let's just swap over spaces here. What I've done here is I have got, you could use any tray. I've got my pizza tray. I like the fact that it's circular. I also like the fact that it's got holes in the bottom. It seems to kind of make it a little bit crispier underneath. And I have drawn on this using a plate, a circle. 2 circles the same size. It says 20 centimeters, give or take. Mine's probably 24, 25. That's fine. Turn that upside down then, because you don't want to eat your writing, your lead pencil. Okay, and a little tip, if you want your baking paper to sit nicely on your tray, press it down with another one, and that will then give you the crease marks to hold it in place. So, got my things ready. Woo, let's do this. This is fun. All right, how good? Like seriously, how good does that look? Can you guys see it? I'll try and put it in the, oh, my camera's gone funny over there. It's popping out on the screen. That's all right. So let's put this in. Oh my goodness, actually, spin you sideways. There you go. All right. So about half on each. It's probably the hardest thing to do is divide it up evenly and figure out how much half is, but that's okay. Look at that. Try and put it in the middle. The reason being is your baking paper shifts around as you try and spread it. So you do want to kind of make it in the middle. It's easier to push it out to the sides. That's my previous experience anyway. Do use baking paper. Try not to use your silicone mats. As much as your silicone mats are lovely, I find they sweat a little bit in this recipe. But in Pavlova, you want it to be really, really dry at the bottom when it's done. You want it when it comes out of the oven, you actually want it to be fully dry underneath. You want it to be sliding on the baking paper. If it's still stuck to that baking paper, then it's not cooked long enough. All right, so that's what you need to be looking out for. Look at how beautiful this is. Like, it's just so marshmallowy. And you'd never know that I used an organic raw sugar that was not white to start off with. I was worried it would end up a bit creamy coloured, but it's not. All right, so I'm not going to try and get the rest out of the bowl. I'm going to give that to the husband to enjoy. By the way, I am making this in the morning, trying to avoid the humidity of the day when it eventually comes out the oven. So it'll sit in the oven, so it'll cook in the oven, and then it stays in the oven to cool. So you put the door ajar. This stops it cracking on top, and you let it stay in there until it's literally cold. And when it comes out then, you don't want it to be really humid and sticky. Now at the moment, the weather here in Queensland is over 30 degrees. It is super humid. So I don't want these to come out when it's super humid. I want them to come out tonight when it's not sticky and hot anymore. So that's why I'm also doing them in the morning. You could do it in the evening. You just got to be, I guess, mindful that in the morning you want to remember they're in your oven and get them out and put them in an airtight container ASAP. The other thing I did another year is I actually put in the container with them some of the oxygen absorbers. You know those ones you get sometimes in some of the food you buy, food safe ones. I put those in to just keep that oxygen, that moisture out of it. That worked well as well. So what I'm doing here is I'm pushing it out to my pencil line. Can you guys see? Yeah, you can just see. Trying not to go too much further. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like, you don't have to make an absolute perfect circle pavlova. And you know what? The other thing is if it flops, call it an eaten mess, okay? So if you haven't heard what an eaten mess is, look it up online, Google it, and just use it still. Like, it's just still amazing food regardless, you know, and you've made it yourself. Be proud of that, because that's an awesome achievement. So there you go. There is one circle pushed out. I'm going to flatten this one down quite reasonably because I'm mindful as well that one's going to be the top and one's going to be the bottom. So it's easier to assemble them if one's kind of flatter than the other. I'll have the top one more rustic. All right, just excuse me while I put that out the way. Now I'm not completely done because in a moment I'm going to put this Dutch cocoa on top. So actually when I said Dutch cocoa, I'm just using cocoa. It says Dutch cocoa in the recipe, 1 tablespoon to swirl through. I didn't have it, so I'm just going to work with what I've got. All right, so I give you permission to do the same thing. Work with what you've got. I mean, if you've got it, go for it. If you've got Dutch cocoa, but if you don't, use just cocoa. Okay, pushing this out to the sides. This is beautiful. Alrighty. Now I have used this mixture and this exact same recipe to make things like little Christmas trees to decorate the Christmas table. Little mini pavlovas are exactly the same mixture of eggs. This is just one of those recipes that works every time, so long as you don't have an oily bowl. Okay, if you've got that oily bowl, nothing's going to work. It's just going to flop. You're going to be going, Lisa, what can I do with my flopped eggs? Okay. They make yummy white egg omelets, okay? So, you know, never let anything with your Thermomix go to waste. If something doesn't work, you reach out to me. I'm usually super quick unless you're on the other side of the world and I'm asleep. But I'm more than happy to help you troubleshoot when things don't go the way that you hoped or planned. All right, this one's the top one. I'm going to let it have a bit of height to it. Looks beautiful. Oh my goodness. Makes me want to lick the spatula, but I'll get a tummy ache, so I'm not going to. All right, so... and it's too early to get a tummy ache. If I'm going to do that, it has to be before bedtime. All right, there we go. So I've got a nice little swirl on top of that one. Now, cocoa. 1 tablespoon of cocoa. Let's sprinkle with teaspoon of cocoa powder and swirl through with a wooden skewer. So back over to here. I know you're a little far back. I do apologise, but I'm a one-man show here. So sometimes you're going to have to put up with things not going to exactly plan, unfortunately. What I wish I brought in was actually, I've got a little tea strainer. And it's a little mesh one. And often when I'm sprinkling cocoa on things like the kids' hot chocolates, when we do those and things like that, I use that. Kind of wish I brought that in with me because that would make this a nicer sprinkle. But anywho, we'll just work with what we got. If one of them looks worse than the other, I'll just put it on the bottom, right? But I think having something a little bit finer to do this with would be nice. All right. Now it says to use a skewer to make swirls. Let's see if I can bring you over here. Told you, a one-man show. All right. Let's do this. So swirling it through. So you can go in circles. Don't worry about the bits that fall off. You can go as deep as you want. Obviously try and stay within your circle lines. Mine's got a bit more on one side than the other. That's okay. Cocoa, that is. And as I said, I want it to be a bit rustic because I actually want to put some cherries and some chocolate wands on top. So I do want texture on this, otherwise I've got nothing to hold it to. There you go. So swirl it through. Obviously just make sure it's a little bit level. I've managed to pull a bit around in different places, so I might have to go backwards with a bit, but that's okay. But there you go, that's how you swirl. I won't show you swirling of the other one because you don't need to see it twice. Let's talk about how we cook it. Just grab that last chunk. All right, I've already given you a bit of an insight into cooking. It's yummy. Okay. Yep, that'll do me for the morning. Okay, let's talk about cooking for a second. Because this is important, because if you get this wrong, you'll end up with a cracked mess and you will have to do an eaten mess. Bake for 10 minutes at 150 degrees, then reduce to 120 and cook for 1 hour. Okay? Turn the oven off and allow the pavlova discs to completely cool with the door shut for 3 hours or overnight. So I tend to leave it shut for an hour or so, okay? And then I put a wooden spoon in it just to keep it a little ajar because you want it to come down temperature. But as I said, mindful of the humidity, okay? Because humidity will make it go sticky. We do have the corn flour in there, which will really help not let it weep, but there's still a certain point that it's going to start capturing that humidity from the air. Clean and dry the mixing bowl, butterfly whisk, and then it's going to make the rest. So I will actually stop now and I'm going to finish this recipe. What I'm going to do is tomorrow I will put up the rest of this recipe. So I'm going to show you how to make the syrup. I'm going to show you how to whip up the coffee cream, because that's not the technicalities of making a pavlova. That's just the lovely little dressings and bits and pieces. And I mean, as I said, this does not have to be a coffee, cherry, chocolate one. This might be tropical fruit and cream. It might be whatever you can come up with, like mangoes and peaches and whatever's seasonal for you wherever you are. All right, so otherwise I hope you enjoy this. Make sure you share this with your friends and family who have a Thermomix and are making pavlovas or Christmas entertaining this year, or maybe they're just not using the Thermomix. Maybe it's a rice cooker for them. Show them that there's more that they can do with their Thermomix, but it's a 31, a 5 or a 6, okay? I love showing up so that you guys get more skills, get more confidence, and get the most out of your Thermomix. So please do share this with those of you people around you who need the ease of Thermomix brings and needs more confidence in it. Remember to hit that subscribe and that bell as well. I love to know you're finding value in what I'm doing. But otherwise, thanks for joining me today. Can't wait to hear about your Pavlovas as we come into this Christmas season. Take care, and I will see you in the next video soon. So, bye for now. Hello and welcome to Thermomixing Adventures. Lisa here, and today we're going to finish off the amazing Pavlova that we made yesterday. Now, using a beautiful recipe on Cookie Dough Black Forest Pavlova stack. Alright, now you can see here I've got the syrup from the cherries that is cooking off. It is the very first step in this recipe. However, I told you yesterday we'd make the Pavlova yesterday and everything else today. So I've gone back. All we had to do was drain the cherries and use that liquid in the Thermomix. No sugar, nothing else, and cook it off for, I think it was 15 minutes, and they said extend by another 7 if required. So I actually did that. I just put it on for 22, and you can see it's just about to be done right here now, which is super exciting. It smells divine in here. I figured that, the more syrupy and sticky it was, the better. But there you go, syrup done. We'll use that shortly, and it's reduced down significantly. It was probably 4 or 5 times that amount when it went in. Rightio, so let's now, normally we go on to make the meringue. Okay, you'd clean your bowl and make your meringue. But you always want to do a meringue, as I mentioned yesterday, on a really super clean bowl. So hence make the meringue, cook the meringue, and then when you're ready to actually, the day of serving your meringue, that's when you make all the bits and pieces to go with it. You could actually whip up your cream early. You could have this in the fridge, but it could be another day. It doesn't have to be the same day. We're going to use recipe details on my TM6 to actually go down now to the whipping cream part. By the way, the Pavlova, totally impressed up the back here. I'll show you in a moment. We're going to assemble it together. So, just coming down here, coffee cream. All right, if you don't like coffee, by all means, skip the coffee out, okay? You could just leave it out completely. You could put some chocolate syrup in instead, but I reckon just leaving it would work perfectly fine. So first things first is it says to put my butterfly whisk in. We should be really confident at doing that by now, behind the high set of blades. Now we need 600 grams of whipping cream. Okay, now pure cream is usually best because it actually is cream and pure. But you know what? Use whatever you can get your hands on. I know sometimes by Christmas time it is a little bit hard to get your hands on things. Now the tricky thing with cream is every batch will take a different length of time to whip. Some will take 30 seconds really. If it's due to expire, it will be done in 30 seconds. Whereas some that are brand new, fresh, they will take 2 minutes to whip. And it's important that it stays cold. If the bowl gets warm in that time and it's really humid today here, it'll actually not start whipping. You'll have to chill it again. Okay, so I actually put my bowl, a little tip, I put my bowl in the fridge for 15 minutes beforehand so that it was cold. All right, so let's now bring this up to, and it says 3.5 speed. It says turn speed selected to 3.5, and then it says to keep an eye on it. Don't overwhip. We're looking for soft peaks. So come with me and let's look at soft peaks together. Now I can hear it slapping at the moment. That means it's not yet thick. You're going to hear the changes in the whipping. I can still hear it slapping. Let's have a sneaky peek. 3.5 will probably get you a bit dirty if you take the measuring cup off, so I'm not going to completely. Could you hear that texture change? Could you hear how rather than slapping, it started spinning freely? We're not done yet, but I just wanted to point that out to you. It's still not soft. Just flew out everywhere. Okay, keeping a really close eye on it. It's starting to bounce the Thermomix a bit. Now, yes, I am on a non-fixed bench, so it is going to show more movement, but as it's starting to thicken, you're going to see that it actually moves your bench around. The Thermomix starts jiggling. Let's have a look at that and see what that looks like in there. It's still too runny, so as I move it around, it is still pouring. It's still running, okay? I was going to say it's still pouring around. It is, but it's definitely thickened up. So let's put this back on. Back up to 3.5. We don't want to turn into butter, okay? Keeping a really close eye on it. Done. Now, if I'd gone any further, I was about to have butter. I can see those particles starting to come out of it. Look at that. So, we really didn't have much time to play with there at all, okay? But good, 35 seconds, 36 seconds here. Let's click on next. Remove the butterfly whisk. Add 2 tablespoons of coffee. So let's wiggle and jiggle this butterfly out. There we go. If you like sweetened cream, of course, you could add your icing sugar to that as well. Because we've got syrup with this and we've got chocolate grated on top and stuff like that, it probably doesn't need more. So I'm just stirring in that little bit that was up the side. That was so close to going to butter. Whew. I don't mind fresh butter, okay? So it wouldn't have been the end of the world, but I would have had to have gone and bought new cream. So now we're adding our 2 tablespoons of espresso, okay? We've done decaf, otherwise, you know, it's going to make people a little bit excitable. Insert the measuring cup, 5 seconds speed 2. You know what? Mine is so close to curdling and going to butter, I'm actually going to stir that through just by hand, okay? I do not want to work this any harder. There's a little tip for you. Now, if you do go too far, you know what? Embrace the butter, okay? You're going to get buttermilk and butter. It's going to be amazing. So do embrace that if you go too far, but try not to, okay? Even turn it down, probably in hindsight, turning it down to speed 3 once it kind of got to that stage of being sloppy but thicker would have been a wise idea. Anywho, that's okay. We've saved it. It's just there. It's got a beautiful color to it now, and now we get to assemble it. So let's do some rejigging back here. How can I do this? Let's see how I can make space on the table. Okay, so what I've done here is I've put my base on the tray I'm going to present it on. Okay, it's far easier if you actually put that base on the presenting tray so you don't have to move it later. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to put, I'm just not going to drop those cherries off the back up there. So I've got the whole cherries here as well, and I've got everything ready to go. So top the disc with half of the coffee cream. Now, a couple of tips from my years of doing this and making lots of mistakes along the way. You want to put your coffee cream or your cream on in small dobs, because if you try and move this around on your pavlova, it will pick up the beautiful crust of your pavlova and it will spread it around. You'll end up with chunks in it, okay? Because your crust is actually quite delicate. So can you see how I'm daubing it around? And then what I'm going to do is smooth out the top, but I do not want to move the under layer of it. So I'm just grabbing little bits at a time and dropping them around the edges. Looks like a flower is what it looks like, okay? And then that one needs to go there. And now I can spread it around. Now you'll notice I've left the center free. That's okay. The center doesn't really matter if it has a huge amount of cream or not, because it's the outside people see anyway, and it oozes into the middle. Also, typically accidentally put more of the pavlova mix in the center, so it already is higher, typically speaking. All right, so there we go. That stuck nicely, and this year I didn't rip any of the pavlova mix up off the crust, so that was nice. And I will put a little bit in the middle there. Oh, don't let it drag. That's how it drags up the coating. Okay, coffee done. Now we're going to put half the reserved drained cherries on. So I'll just grab the cherries across, and we're putting half of these on. I don't really want to touch them, but I kind of can't help it. Have to touch it. All right. You wouldn't have this trouble because in your kitchen you've got a sink. I've just got to put up with the dirty fingers. So half the cherries on, which is actually a fair portion of cherries. Now this doesn't have to be cherries. This could be tropical. It could be, I think I touched on this yesterday. It might be pineapple and mango and pear, whatever's seasonal for you. Or if it's not seasonal, that's okay. This is where these beautiful cherries, which you can get in the tin at the supermarket, come in handy. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to put onto it, that's my cherry. Oh, hang on, back we go, more instructions. Some chocolate. I'm not going to put too much chocolate in this, only because I actually didn't do a huge amount of chocolate. I only did a little bit. I probably only done 10 grams rather than 100 grams. So I'll put a little bit, but I'm saving most of it for the top. All right, syrup. Let's grab the syrup. Oh, looks beautiful. Now with the syrup, little tip, don't worry again about the center so much. Do look at doing the outside more, because that's what's going to trickle down and look absolutely amazing. So I tend to do a star shape around the outside, because that's what people are going to see. Not going to see the center so much. All right, now let's continue it on. Next layer of pavlova. So this is my top. Just grab it from my tray over here. On it goes. And then we do it again. So one last time. So exactly the same pattern here. where I'm going to put the cream around, and similarly, remember, keep it like a flour to start off with so that you've got the capability to spread it out. If you make it too thin, then you can't move it about. Actually, might have put too much on the bottom. I probably should have kept this a little bit thinner, but anyway, that's okay, still tastes amazing. Remember, you do not want to assemble this to the last minute. If you're taking this to somebody's home, you want to be taking it in its portions, in the whipped cream, in the keep the base in an airtight container, because it's going to go soggy pretty much from the moment you start assembling it. So remember that you want to keep it all in separate containers, whipped cream, cherry syrup, drained cherries, and then assemble once it's ready to hit the dessert table at the end of your event. Okay, so I'm just getting the rest of that out. It smells amazing, oh my goodness. All right, so now gently without pushing it too far, and I'm happy to keep it towards the middle because I don't think I've got quite enough. Should have just made a mound in the middle, but anyway, afterthoughts. You could whip up more if you had more as well, obviously, and this is where I'm starting to get a bit thin. Okay, there we go. And now we're going to put some more cherries. Ooh, don't play too much, Lisa. This is where I get in trouble because I make a mess. I'm just going to grab a knife here. I did have a spare knife because I wondered if I was going to need this to actually spread it, or a palette knife. I just have a butter knife that I was going to use the back of. Cherries. Let's do cherries next. Beautiful. Can't wait to taste this. So I hope this is giving you the confidence to give it a go. No more buying those packet ones full of additives, numbers and colours and all that jazz. Do it yourself. You've got a Thermomix. Yes, it's going to cost you a carton of eggs. You can make some amazing things with, well, it's not even a carton, but 3/4 of a carton. Some amazing things with the beautiful egg yolks left over, ice creams and stuff like that. So don't, let that put you off, but you can do it. You can do this. It's so easy, okay? The hardest thing is making sure you've got a clean bowl, but I'm sure if you've got a dishwasher, put it through a dishwasher. Otherwise, just Google Pavlova vinegar wash and you'll see how to do it. Okay, so chocolate. And by the way, I just got a grater and I grated the sides. This is 90% dark because that's what we eat around here. So that's what I did there, was just grated it off. That's why my flakes are pretty small too, because it was the side of that, the dark chocolate, which is quite thin. And syrup. And then we're done. Now the top layer of syrup, yes, side to side is the way to go, so that you end up with it trickling off both sides. So just a bit of this. Zigzag back and forth. And can you believe it? But it's done. I was a bit shortchanged on that side because I nearly hit the Thermomix. But that is how we make the Black Forest Pavlova stack in Thermomix. You can do this. It is amazing. It is simple. I have broken it down over 2 days. You don't even need to do it in 2 days though. You could make it one morning and serve it that afternoon, okay? Because as long as you've got the cool time in the oven, it'll be perfectly fine. But give this a go. When you do, I'd love to know what you think. And I'd also love to know, have you made a Pavlova? What's your favorite toppings that you go to? And all those sorts of things, because I love to know you are finding value in these videos. But otherwise, thanks for joining me today. I am so excited about my little Pavlova, big Pavlova stack here. I hope you'll give this a go and tell me what you think. But otherwise, take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video soon. So, bye.